Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the news from SABA Satellite Channel, live from Marib. Here are tonight's top stories. President Al-Alimi urges international action against Houthi escalation, says era of cost-free attacks is over. PLC member Al-Arada calls for higher security readiness in Al-Mahra to counter smuggling and emerging threats. Also, armed forces report Houthi attack targeting civilian homes and power facilities in Mocha. Welcome back. President of the Presidential Leadership Council, Dr. Rashad Al-Alimi, has urged the international community to take a clear position against renewed Houthi escalation, warning that the latest attacks represent a test of international commitment to Yemen's peace process. Addressing ambassadors of countries sponsoring the political process, Al-Alimi highlighted the Houthi missile and drone attack on Mocha port, saying it has struck civilian and economic infrastructure, including a maritime berth, cargo facilities, commercial vessels, the Saudi field hospital, immigration facilities, and water projects. He said the attack was part of a wider escalation that has included attacks on commercial shipping, Saudi Arabia, and military and civilian targets in Marib and Hadramaut. Al-Alimi urged that the government had prioritized diplomacy and restraint for years, but warned that peace cannot be sustained while an armed group retains the ability to independently decide when and where to launch attacks. He called on international partners to defend civilian protection, state sovereignty, and freedom of navigation, and to support Yemen's right to protect its people and institutions under international law. The ambassadors strongly condemned the recent Houthi attacks, reaffirmed support for Yemen's government, and backed continued international pressure to prevent further escalation and preserve prospects for peace. As international pressure grows over the renewed Houthi escalation, Yemeni authorities are also reinforcing security measures on the ground. Member of the Presidential Leadership Council, Sultan Al-Arada, has called for heightened military and security readiness in Al-Mahra governorate, stressing its strategic importance as Yemen's eastern gateway. During a meeting with Major Colonel Salim Kudde, commander of the Al-Ghaida military axis and military police brigade, Al-Arada reviewed security and military measures taken in response to recent developments. The meeting was also attended by Chief of the General Staff and Joint Operations Commander Lieutenant General Saghir bin Aziz. Al-Arada urged stronger coordination between military and security units, with particular focus on countering smuggling networks operated by the Iran-backed Houthis, which pose risks to national, regional, and international security. He praised the local authorities and security forces in Al-Mahra for supporting stability and strengthening state institutions. Lieutenant General bin Aziz also commended the performance of the Al-Ghaida military axis and called for continued discipline and readiness. Major General Kudde reaffirmed the axis's commitment to protecting Al-Mahra's security and stability and carrying out its national and military responsibilities. Security preparations are also being strengthened across other strategic areas of the country. Presidential Leadership Council member and Hadramaut Governor Salim Al-Khambashi has inspected key air, maritime, and oil facilities in the governorate to review security readiness and emergency measures. Al-Khambashi visited the Rayyan International Airport, Mukalla Port, and the Al-Dabba Oil Terminal, meeting civilian, military, security, customs, Coast Guard, and maritime officials. At the Rayyan Airport, he reviewed precautionary measures to protect passengers and staff, as well as emergency and safety plans. At Mukalla Port, officials discussed security arrangements, emergency response, and coordination mechanisms to ensure the continuity of operations and protect personnel, property, and infrastructure. At the Dabba Oil Terminal, Al-Khambashi inspected marine buoys, the loading platform, and strategic storage facilities. Officials briefed him on security measures, operational readiness, and damage sustained by some facilities, export platforms in previous attacks. Al-Khambashi stressed the importance of strengthening protection systems, securing workers, updating emergency plans, and using modern security and safety technologies. He also praised staff across the facilities and called for closer coordination between civilian, military, and security authorities to ensure the continued operation of these strategic assets. The heightened security measures come as the government continues to press for a stronger international response to the escalation. Foreign Minister Dr. Afrah Al-Zuba has urged the United Nations to take practical measures to curb renewed Houthi escalation, warning that recent attacks increasingly threaten regional and international security. During a phone call with UN Undersecretary General for Political and Peace-Building Affairs, Rosemary DiCarlo, Al-Zuba reviewed attacks targeting Yemeni forces, displacement camps, and civilian sites in Marib, extending to Saudi Arabia's Najran region and the port on city of Muka near the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Al-Zuba said the escalation alongside continued threats to Red Sea shipping represents a broader regional security concern. She welcomed the latest UN Security Council statement condemning Houthi attacks, reaffirming Yemen's sovereignty and territorial integrity, while calling for concrete measures to stop the escalation, implement relevant resolutions, and pressure Iran to end its support and arms supplies to the Houthis. DiCarlo said the UN Security Council is closely following developments and reiterated the UN's position to attacks targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure and threatening international navigation. She called for an end to escalatory actions and stressed the need to keep Yemen high on the international agenda while continuing efforts to ease the country's humanitarian crisis. In tandem with her appeals to the United Nations, Dr. Al-Zuba is also cementing bilateral support from key international allies. Foreign Minister Dr. Afrah Al-Zuba held separate talks with the U.S. Charge Aid Affairs Neil Hope and Saudi Ambassador to Yemen Mohammed Al-Jaber on the latest Houthi escalation, bilateral cooperation, and regional security. During her meeting with Hope, Al-Zuba condemned the Houthi missile and drone attack on Muka port, describing it as a dangerous escalation targeting a vital civilian and economic facility near the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. She warned that attacks on ports, trade infrastructure, and civilian sites threaten Yemen's economic interests, regional stability, and international maritime routes. Hope reaffirmed U.S. condemnation of the attacks and Washington's support for the Yemeni government and security cooperation. In talks with Al-Jaber, Al-Zuba praised Saudi Arabia's political, economic, humanitarian, and development support for Yemen, including assistance to the electricity sector and essential services. She also condemned Houthi attacks on Saudi Arabia's Najran region and discussed the attack on Muka port, which damaged vital facilities, including the Saudi field hospital. Al-Jaber reaffirmed Riyadh's support for Yemen's government and continued assistance for economic reforms, public services development, and humanitarian programs. While diplomatic efforts continue to address the security situation, humanitarian and health needs remain a major concern. Minister of Public Health and Population Dr. Ghassan Bahaibe has met with a delegation from the French organization Doctors of the World to discuss expanded healthcare programs and directing assistance toward areas facing the greatest needs. During the meeting in Aden, the organization reviewed its ongoing health and humanitarian interventions through offices in Aden, Marib, and Sana'a, along with plans to expand its programs. Bahaibe welcomed the organization's work, particularly in underserved areas, and stressed the need for stronger coordination between the Health Ministry and international organizations to ensure assistance reflects national priorities and avoids duplication. He said future projects should align with Yemen's health strategy for 2026 to 2030, with greater emphasis on sustainable programs, strengthen local health system capacity, and maintaining emergency and epidemic response support where needed. The Doctors of the World delegation reaffirmed its commitment to continued coordination with the ministry and to adapting its future interventions in Yemen's health priorities. The discussions reflect efforts to shift humanitarian health support toward longer-term system strengthening, while maintaining capacity to respond to emergencies. Armed forces say 4 military personnel and 3 civilians were killed and 30 others injured in a Houthi missile and drone attack on the city and port of Muka on Sunday. Military spokesperson Staff Colonel Majid al-Nizali said the attack targeted civilian sites and infrastructure, including employees' homes, power generation facilities, and other civilian locations, as well as military positions. He said most of those injured were civilians and had been discharged after receiving medical treatment. Al-Nizali described the attack as a violation of international humanitarian law and said air defenses stationed in Muka intercepted and destroyed 11 Houthi drones involved in the assault. The spokesperson stressed that an attack on military units stationed in Muka is considered an attack on the armed forces as a whole. He said the military has the capability and initiative to neutralize sources of threat in accordance with operational requirements, while emphasizing the need to protect civilians and their property. Al-Nizali also reaffirmed that the armed forces would continue their operations across all front lines or fronts until, in his words, the Houthi threat is ended and Yemen's security, stability, and state institutions are restored. That's all for tonight. Thank you for watching. Have a good time.